The Hezbollah leader calls Israeli pager attacks a declaration of war, as, of course, the state bombs T groups' strongholds. So they not only did the pagers, they not only did the walkie-talkies, they actually sent over some serious ammunition and apparently took out some strategic targets. The Hez leader, Hassan Nasrallah, declared Israel's surprise pager and handheld radio attacks a, quote, declaration of war, and dared the state to invade Lebanon. Of course, it says, as he spoke, Israel forces carpet-bombed the terror group's strongholds. In a televised address Thursday, Nasrallah acknowledged that Hez received a heavy, painful blow, saying that Israel's decision to detonate scores of pagers and other electronic devices earlier this week mounted to, quote, a major aggression that will not go unanswered. Another quote, these massacres amount to war crimes or a declaration of war, promising a crushing response from the axis of resistance. It's crazy that, again, they're using the name Axis of Resistance. Brings you back to 2001 and the Axis of Evil and all of that. It's absolutely nuts. And they say Israel's creative operation, which unfolded over Tuesday and Wednesday, saw thousands of Hezbollah communications devices simultaneously explode across Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, leaving at least 30 perished and thousands more wounded. Just hours before Nasrallah was slated to give his speech, Israeli Air Force began bombing Hezbollah strongholds across southern Lebanon. Some blasts rang out as he spoke, according to the Wall Street Journal. Not only are we going to talk about this, of course, they are wondering if there was a third attempt on the former prez. There's all sorts of events going on worldwide. And, of course, there was another gentleman who came out and said that there is going to be a war with China by 2027. And much, much more coming up in just a moment. Stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. They're all not falling out their hair. Yep, yep. There is no good war declared. Yep, yep. They're all not falling out their hair. Yep, yep. There is no good war declared. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Remember, you have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today. This is done before every show. If you do like our show, we are completely independent. Make sure to share us out with your friends and family. Make sure to share our short videos like the one we just did right before this over on our sister channel, Marfoogle News. And you, of course, have access to all of our sources right here on marfooglenews.com. On top of that, I don't have it because I've already clicked on it, but if you go to the website, marfooglenews.com, right when you get to the homepage, there will be, actually it is still there, a little red icon in the lower right-hand corner, and that subscribes you to notification. That way, when we go live, no matter where we go live, it will let you know about that, even if the different apps don't. So let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, Nasrallah saying that this was a declaration of war, it carries weight because he is the leader of Hez. So,
well, And even the leadership is one thing. The fact that it's a declaration. Okay, when you declare something like this, at least this from a statement point of view, it means something that's ongoing. It's one thing to say we're going to retaliate or you're going to pay for something. Like when they took out the leader and they said you're going to pay for it. So everybody's expecting some sort of large retaliation for that. What they're talking about here is greater than that. You wouldn't just say a declaration of war like this if you didn't mean an ongoing numerous event type battle that's going to continue. Now, it could all just be words. Like, look, they all said, hey, we're going to retaliate for taking out the leader that you did a while back. Even Iran was doing it. We put all of our carriers in the area. They're still there at the moment, waiting for this retaliation from that one that never happened yet. But if they're moving from a point of view of we're going to retaliate for one thing and a tit for tat, and maybe the retaliation was going to be big, to now we're moving into what we want to call, or what they want to call, I should say, a conflict, a full-on conflict, and using that terminology, that would mean ongoing, and that would mean at a much greater level than we've seen before. Now, is it just words, or will it escalate? If it's not just words and it escalates, we got to be prepared, because this could be the kicking off point that we've been saying is going to spark the actual Middle Eastern conflict that's just going to, rage up.
I've talked to people in the Fugel fam that have said that they believe, they always say that they're going to react. So does Russia. And really, when it comes down to it, that the U.S. and Western nations are so strong that they'll never mess with them because they know that they back up Israel. Same thing with Russia, that, they'll never actually do something to the U.S. because they don't want a war with the U.S. No, they don't. Not on their own. Of course, none of these countries could take on the U.S. That is something that we can be proud of. That if Iran took on the U.S., Iran wouldn't be Iran anymore. If Russia took on the U.S., Russia would not be Russia anymore. You could go down the list and you could say this for all of them. But all of them together is a different story. When our own Pentagon, when, of course, the Ministry of Defense of Russia, when China's essentially the same thing, went through and war gamed this out, including, I believe China and the U.S. both used it super advanced, not even to the public kind of AI algorithms. They looked at how a war would play out, every little step, all the way down the line. And they all found that the only chance that the U.S. would lose in a war would be if it was fighting more than one peer-to-peer adversary. Peer-to-peer adversary being Russia and China. Now, both of them are not only no-limits partners, but now they not only signed treaties, but now Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, of course, North Korea, all of the others, Iran, they have all signed agreements with each other to not only back each other up, but to be there. You have other parties like South Africa and India, which, again, could end up being our enemies, even though India and China don't get along. They have now been working together with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS, and it seems like some things are really going on, like the backing up of their forces and even their structures on the border that they have been fighting over, the whole reason that India and China are enemies in the first place. So I have kind of broke down my whole theory of, how this would go down. I believe that all of them are waiting for their big response for everybody else to get ready. And everyone is getting ready. You can see the framework in every country. They're all setting up. Just over the last 2 days, Dex and I covered that North Korea, they have satellite images of course, South Korea, and they're looking at their battle plans. They are, of course, drilling. You have China and Taiwan. You have all of the breaking news about, of course, the different things, the drills that they're doing there. You have, of course, very odd firsts happening, like Germany going right into the Taiwan Strait. You have all of these actions which look like a response to something that essentially our upper echelon of the government found out, and then we only see the response or the solution, like, we'll push back against this, but we don't ever see what the this was. So you see these events where they're reacting to something, like the U.S. automatically registering everyone, making it law that right when a man turns 18, automatically registered for the draft. That is because there will be a draft. I believe that they have information. Look at all of the other countries that are preparing for this. You can see it. Clearing out the airfields at Tinian and other islands. We just showed you that over on the other video. And of course, last night we covered that. And we even talked about how they were talking about it last year and about 6 months ago. Now they have done it. In less than 1 year, they have cleared everything out. So they're preparing for a massive war. And, people are still going to go, oh, well, it'll never happen. Oh, this and that. It's coming. And it's coming in slow-mo, and everybody can see it. And people are going to deny it until the very first blow. And I think that's why it's really important that our community has known this for a long time, that they've slowly prepared. You've had plenty of time up until this point to get prepared, to have extra stuff around. We're not talking about the end of the world. This doesn't mean, stop paying your bills and go dig a hole in the backyard. It means get ready. This is what the prepping community has been talking about for a long time. And everybody thought we were crazy. Now everything that people thought we were crazy for, it's all happening. It's because we saw all of this being built. We saw the home being built, and they're about to put the last, structure and the roof on. So I hope that we got through to a lot of people over the last 5 years, and hope that many of you, of course, are able to get through to your friends and family. And then, Dex, let's talk about the U.S. Defense Secretary postpones Israel trip. Source familiar with the issue. Why would they be doing that?
Yeah, you know why they're doing it. Come on, everybody should look at this. Read between the lines. He was planning to go there, and he's pulling it off and pulling back. It was supposed to be next week. If they're expecting this conflict to rage up and get heated really quick, he is postponing, and that's what they're saying. So, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin attended a press conference in UK for UKR back on September 6th. Has postponed his planned trip that was in Israel amid the escalations, and sources are familiar with that have been saying that as of today, it's been canceled or postponed. The trip would have come right when these heightened tensions are happening from this attack. So you can sort of read between the lines here, folks. I think it's pretty obvious why he's not going now.
Yeah, they're looking at the potential of events. Now, they're not going to out and say it. They actually said the source did not give a reason for the postponement. Obviously, that leaves it open for people to say, well, there could be something else. Maybe he's got a birthday party to attend. Maybe he's got a school play or something that he's got to attend. I don't know, but I highly doubt it. Go ahead.
And the other part of it, Adam, we got to think about is the way our administration has been dealing with Israel. Right? In general, at a high level, you always say America's backed Israel, and they always have been. But with our current administration, there has been some contention with that. So you also have to look at this and think: is there a possibility that, and it hasn't been announced yet, that there's some additional consternation between our current president and what they want and how they perceive Israel's behaving or acting on this? Remember they held back certain weapons during times of need, as far as what Israel would have said they needed it at that time because they were in the throes of conflict. So, you got to question that one too. And I think we'll get a little more clarity as the days go on, as we get closer and closer. We'll hear more. It'll come out. But be prepared to see that maybe even our current administration acts a little wonky on this one because they did the last time too.
And apparently, according to Shin Bet chief, Iran allegedly plotted to take out a prime minister. Of course, Iran has plotted to take out Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and Shin Bet Director Ronen Bar, the Shin Bet chief, announced on Thursday. Its efforts were particularly intense following the taking out of political chief Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, which most of the world has attributed to, of course, the CIA of Israel, Mossad. However, Israel has made sure not to take any credit for it. In addition, the Republic, of course, at a somewhat more vague level, explored taking out former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and other top Israeli defense officials. It says that the plot was to use an Israeli businessman who spent extensive time living in Turkey and had financial dealings with both Turkish and persons to develop a plan to take them out in Israel. So, and it's, interesting that it has something to do with Turkey and a Turkish businessman, considering all of the comments by the Turkish Prime Minister or President Erdogan. And it says, to effectuate the plan, in April of this year, Turkish citizens Andre Faruk Aslan and Gunid Aslan contacted the businessman to conduct financial transactions, inviting him to the Turkish city of Samandag and to meet with two representatives of a rich Iranian named Wadi. In May, the meeting was held. But when he was told that Wadi would not leave Iran for Turkey, he agreed to have himself smuggled by car from Turkey into Iran, where he met Wadi and a member of the Iranian security establishment named Hajj. This sounds like something straight out of a Bond film. It says the Israeli businessman later visited Iran a second time in August and received 5,000 euros as part of the start of his undertaking financial, logistics, and weapons-related actions for accomplishing the plot, including potentially converting a not agent into a double agent. They're saying 5,000 euros. Dex, what was it yesterday? Do you remember somebody else over there was being trained and they were getting paid the equivalent of about $2,400 a month or something? Or it was something
I think
crazy.
I think this was just like the early down payment, because I think the actual price tag on this deal was something like the tune of $1 million he was going to get paid.
Well, that sounds a little bit more, right. But why would you even start something like this for 5,000 euros, which I don't know. What is that? $6,000 or $7,000? I don't know what that converts to, but it's, I don't know. It sounds like a pretty insane plan there. Now, before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield if you haven't. We've talked about all of the different adversaries that can not only attack us and that have threatened to attack us. We've talked about pretty much every one of them has the ability to hit us with an EMP. An electromagnetic pulse attack could knock out, again, all of our grid. And they say in the first year that 90% of us would perish. This isn't because we would take each other out or we would be physically hurt by the actual attack. It would be because our power grid goes down, our infrastructure goes down, and then we would not have water infrastructure. Having no water means no people. Again, this is all really goes back to water. So that's a reminder. Make sure to have extra water on hand and make sure to do your research on how to keep water. But also you can get protected against an EMP and a Carrington level event from the sun. This protects against both. It grounds the signal of a EMP or a Carrington level event in less than 500 trillionths of a second on your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, and of course your home. If you wire this into your home, it will protect everything plugged in within 250 linear feet of where it is wired in. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. On the vehicle versions and most of the generator and other devices versions, this is a super easy process. On your car, it's red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground. There's 3 wires then bolted into the side of your chassis, and you're done. That way, if you get hit with a Carrington level event or multiple EMPs, your car is still going to run to get you home to bug in or to get you out to bug out. marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. That not only saves you $50 off per device, it helps our independent news. We are, again, on our own. We don't have a multi-channel network, and we are, again, trying to do this up against an uphill battle. Dex, go ahead.
And hey, Ghetto in chat brought this to our attention, and this has been ongoing, I guess, for the last maybe hour or so, maybe a little longer. It's 24 minutes ago. It was updated. Before we move off of the topic of what's happening in the Middle East there, apparently Israel has unleashed a heavy strike in southern Lebanon. They're saying that the warplanes have carried out late Thursday the most intense strikes in nearly a year of the conflict. So keep an eye out. There'll be much more to come out of this as light comes up and the news starts breaking of the details of this. But it has been ongoing as an intense barrage of airstrikes covering southern Lebanon right now. And of course, the White House said a diplomatic solution was achievable and urgent, and Britain called for an immediate ceasefire. So again, there's that other side of the story that I said would be there, which is to try to push Israel to stop what's happening. Because I don't think anybody wants this to break out, because if this breaks out, it's going to get big. It's going to get big quick.
Yeah. So anything that is breaking, just like what was their name again? What did you say?
Their username was Ghetto.
Ghetto. Just like Ghetto, if you have something that you're seeing and we don't have it yet, if it's breaking as we speak on this show, we are live. So you can get that to us and we can get that and flip it back and let people know about it while we're still live. So remember, you can also pop into chat. If you haven't popped into chat ever, if you watch silently and you've watched every night, maybe I know some people have said that, they're shy to come in when everybody knows each other. Just pop in. And then if you're a regular here, make sure if you see new names, try to welcome them. Everybody here, or at least most people here, you talk to other people about this kind of stuff. You get defensiveness. You get people saying, oh, you're one of those, or it's really nice to have a place where you can go and talk about your theories and talk about, of course, what you think without having somebody call you crazy. So I hope this is the place for that. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we update it. It's on our website too, so it's already there. If you want to go find the source for it, it's there. And it's always updated before the end of the show, so make sure to go over there at the very end and go check that out. And then Dex, let's go over the Iran envoy. Malley may have been on classified White House call. Okay, so the envoy from Iran actually, well, probably they're saying has taken part in a classified conference call with the White House, even though his security clearance was suspended a while back. So the State Department Office of Inspector General did not interview Malley and could not confirm that he had been on the call. But his deputy notified a White House official that Rob will call in, and that Malley had accessed the control office where the call would have occurred. So apparently he was not supposed to be there, and it looks like he may have been there. And of course, this was a classified meeting at the time. Now, I don't know why that person would have had access to a classified meeting, but apparently they weren't supposed to at this point. But I don't know why they would have had access had it been prior when they weren't suspended. The material was later accessed by a hostile cyber actor, according to Senator James Risch, Foreign Relations Committee ranking member, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know, man, just kind of a little screw up here. But when you look at this kind of stuff, it's like, oh, who dropped the ball on this one, allowing, one of our enemies, one of our adversaries, clearance into a potential conference call that was classified?
Yeah, it always these kind of things, it's like, oh, or how did they miscount $6 billion? Like, oh yeah, we have an accounting error and we can actually send $6 billion more dollars. It's like, are they mistakes or are they just somebody looking the other way? And then Russia warns its missiles can reach U.S. ally in 3 minutes. Now, I saw an interesting video. Dex, I forgot to send this to you. There is a video on X. And Dex, I think, could you look up, it's a hypersonic speed simulation. And something like that. We'll pull it up. It's a video of how fast all of the different missiles goes. It goes through, I think, just the regular rockets, ATACMS or ATASMs, all the way up to Dongfangs and the Minutemen. And it shows the speed, and it basically shows the mountains going back, that missiles are flying, and then it shows the next speed up, just zooming by it. And it goes all the way through all of the missiles, and it really was kind of an eye-opening thing. I don't know how, if this thing is incredibly accurate, but if it is, it's at least accurate in the way of it takes the speeds of them. That is factual. I looked up at least 5 of them, and it says those are the speeds from Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 5, Mach 20 to hypersonic speeds. And it shows you, all of the different countries and where they're at. The crazy part is China is not only up there. I believe China is might be number one in a couple of these. But we're talking about, Mach 20 speeds, like just insane speeds. And of course, Russia, they show the Kinzhal, and I thought the Kinzhal was like the top of the top when I was watching this. And then I was surprised to see 5, 6, 7 after that, as far as faster. But they say that their missiles can actually reach U.S. allies in 3 minutes. Russia has issued a new warning against Ukraine's allies following recent calls to loosen restrictions on Kiev's Western-supplied weaponry. Now, over 900 days into the Russian-Ukraine war, almost 3 years, an ominous threat comes amid increasing geopolitical frictions between Moscow and Ukraine's global allies, and growing concerns over the conflict's potential for escalation. The flight time of the Sarmat missile to Strasbourg is 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Russian politician Yaroslav Volodin posted a telegram on Thursday. Now, this is also the same lawmaker who I believe said, this is the same one, right? I'm not confusing their names. They're both Volodin, right? I believe this is the same gentleman who actually said that that this may result in them using nuclear weapons. But of course, posted it to Telegram. So again, 3 minutes in 20 seconds they could get to Strasbourg. Volodin, who has served as the chairs of Russian State Duma since 2016, was writing in response to the recent calls from the European Parliament to lift limitations on Ukraine's use of Western-supplied weaponry within Russian territory and to speed up the delivery of the arms to Kiev. There's the big question if they are allowed to use these long-range missiles. I know there's some in our community that say, hey, let them do this, let them kick Russia's ass, right? But at the same time, most of us are very weary of this because none of us, I don't believe any of us, really want to see a World War III. But where do you kind of sacrifice your feelings on that? Well, are we just going to take crap forever? And by we, it would be speaking of Western nations. But we're not really supposed to be involved here. This is Ukraine, a non-NATO ally. So this whole thing is getting really, really scary. They're not telling us transparently why we are truly there other than to protect the freedoms of a country that really nobody knows exactly why we are doing it when they couldn't have even gotten into NATO. They didn't fit the requirements. So what the heck are we doing? Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I found that video. That's amazing. You guys got to look at that. I'll put it on the website for sure. But the Avant-Garde was the fastest at Mach 27.
Yeah. Is that not nuts?
But, even things like our Trident missile, I think, was up there at Mach 24. But I mean, it's hypersonic, but it's not, navigable. It's coming in at a straight shot, right?
Yeah. So that's one thing that confused me when I saw that. We've covered so many articles about, so I guess it's that fast, but remember they tested those and they weren't able to hit their targets on like 3 of the tests. Remember they failed. Well, we failed.
Well, I mean, an ICBM is hypersonic. It's just that it goes straight up not straight up, but it goes up in arcs and comes down. So it really doesn't have any navigation. It has a little navigation, but it goes up into the orbit and comes straight back down. And on the way down is when it's getting all of its speed. Obviously, it's maxing out its speed. The newer stuff that everybody's talking about hypersonic is hypersonic in a navigable way where they can maneuver in flight and shift direction and kind of like a cruise missile. A cruise missile can, stay low, fly, turn left, turn right, do things like that. And that's the difference between something like a Minuteman that is very fast, but it just has one trajectory and that's where it goes.
And this video shows the cost of each missile as well. I think, is that France, the Caliber missile? But it goes through and it shows essentially these things just going, and then it will show these two going, say Mach 10, and then it will show another missile. This is the Zircon, right? We've heard a lot about the Zircon. And I was watching this, not seeing like where it was in the video. I was thinking the Zircon, for some reason in my mind, I was thinking, oh, this must be up there at the top speed. I'm looking at Mach 9 and I'm thinking, oh, this is up there. you look at the shapes too. So I don't know how accurate. I know the zircon does look like that, but some of the shapes at the end, I was surprised. I'm like, how do they go fast? They don't even look. What do you call it? They don't even look aerodynamic.
Well, and that's the thing. So the zircon is pulling off Mach 9. It's hypersonic, but it can also navigate. It can also make banks and turn, where a Trident's going Mach 22. But again, it's straight line. It's just heading in one direction.
Yeah, the whole thing is kind of an eye opener, to how fast these things could go. If they truly can get up there, I was pretty surprised on the Dongfang missiles. Did you see those, Dex? How fast they were up there?
Very fast. China has that one that was like, what was it, second to the fastest, I think?
Mach 26 or something?
Yeah, Mach 26. The last one was Avant-Garde, which I guess, who is that? Is that France, you said?
Yeah, I think that's
Mach
France.
27. Yeah.
It just shows the flag.
$50
So,
$50 million.
And it's named Avant-Garde. Avant-Garde. Doesn't that mean like on guard? Is that the word?
Touche.
And then we have North Korea says it tested. Well, think about this: the 3-minute missile thing, to the allies over there. Think about the trading that North Korea and other countries, Iran and all of these, they're worried about them trading this high-tech missiles. If we get in a war and if they are working together, they're all going to be sharing that stuff. So it really makes you wonder, how do people not see this? If they are currently sharing stuff, if there's any truth to that, if they're sharing these really, really top secret, high-tech, super fast missiles and nuclear technology, that kind of right there tells you that they're going to be war allies in a real war, not that they're just doing business. They're getting ready for something. And then North Korea says it tested missile capable of super large warhead. So, we hear about the Sarmats and the Satan II missile able to take out, basically to load up. I think the Sarmat, the thing about that is after it gets to its target, it breaks into 12 or 15 warheads, and then those 15 warheads hit different targets. Really trippy to think about that. And they show the areas. If you've ever messed around with the nuke map shows you all of the different size bombs. Just like that Twitter video of the missiles, it shows you an actual map of how big everything is, from, I think, down to a grenade, up to a Sarmat or Satan II missile that takes out 4 states. And you can actually put in an address. Very terrifying. You can put in your own address and see, like, if something hit downtown Seattle or downtown Chicago, how far would it go out? So it's very creepy to see some of the bigger ones. Now they're saying that North Korea successfully tested a new ballistic missile capable of carrying a super large conventional warhead. It says state-controlled KCNA agency quoted the country's missile administration as stating the test fire held on Wednesday went as planned. It added that the ruler Kim Jong-un oversaw the launch, which we've heard a lot about them. We've seen a lot of pictures coming out in the last couple weeks, which makes me think they're putting this in the back of everybody's head. The new type tactical ballistic missile was tipped with a 4.5 tonnage super large conventional warhead. KCNA reported the test aimed to check the, quote, accuracy of a hit at medium range of 320 kilometers and explosive power of a super large warhead with a missile loaded with such a warhead. Dex, have you thought about this? One thing I don't see very often, so they're saying that they tested this thing. Do you ever see any articles anymore? Do you ever see any experts coming out and say, well, we actually don't think that they have this anymore. We think that they're bluffing. Have you noticed in the last few years, since now they say that they're trading with Russia and Iran and China, have you noticed that no one is questioning whether they actually have these capabilities?
Yeah, the questions are no longer there. It's clear they have them.
Yeah. And if you know what I'm talking about, when you go back years, if they said, oh, they're testing a nuclear missile, I mean, heck, if you go back 10 years, they were testing low-yield nuclear weapons, which now it's come out and there's been released documents The back when, if you remember, there were like little 2.7 earthquakes and 3 point whatever earthquakes, 5.0 earthquakes in North Korea, and they said, oh, they tested a nuke, and everybody laughed at them. Experts said, oh, it was only that big of an earthquake. They can't get down a big nuclear weapon. They made fun of them and said, oh, these are, super low yield. They can't get it down. When in reality, what they were doing is they were perfecting a super EMP weapon. They were actually testing low yield nukes because an EMP does not require a high yield nuclear warhead. It actually requires a low yield, which was the technology they got from Russia back then. And Russia even admitted it. They said, well, they either stole it from us or we gave it. We're not going to tell you which. But they did confirm that they had it. So then you fast forward, of course, now no one is doubting that they have this technology, not even independents. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just going to add, back to the distance they were talking about, this medium range. When you think of 320 kilometers, which I think South Korea said that actually traveled about 400, that distance is not enough to get to Japan. So this is solely targeted at South Korea. Like there's no other, unless they're going to strike Russia or China with it, or they're going to strike a military navy in the Sea of Japan or in the Yellow Sea. They can't make it to East China Sea, but it pretty much from North Korea to the bottom of South Korea would be about 300 kilometers, 320 kilometers from the border. So this we will probably hear, my prediction is we're going to hear again from South Korea saying that this type of activity is one in which they are probably going to say they need to have their own nuclear defense. And they've talked about it before. And when this type of activity comes up and they talk about these larger warheads on these, shorter medium range ballistics, that's going to be critical for South Korea, because who else is he targeting with it? Assuming, as they said, it's surface to surface, not a sub launch, because it sounds like it's a surface missile.
And I just did because it shows you what on this map. Basically, if you're looking at it this far out, from this border of North Korea, the top, to about the bottom, says that's about 300 kilometers. So from here to here. So if you launched it from, say, one of these blue dots, you could easily get deep into South Korea. But you couldn't get to, you couldn't even get to Japan. You would land in the water halfway. So these are specifically, like Dex said, for South Korea. And they're mapping it out. They just showed them looking at the satellite photos. What are they really planning? Who is their overlords? I guess we'll see. Trilicid, hey, I want to shout out. You're probably watching the replay because I don't know if you made it to the live. But thank you for the super thanks on yesterday's show, U.S. troops deploying to Alaska. So it's funny you mentioned the earthquake stuff. My best friend's dad's house was in Hayward, California. And no joke, when I say over the course of a few years, his room literally had shifted almost 2 full feet. He would mark on the wall where he initially noticed, and his house sat right on top of the fault line that runs through Hayward. Hayward is one of the faults. That one is the ticking time bomb one. That's the one that there's tons of articles about the Hayward, that fault underneath. That's a scary one. I think it's capable of a 7.0, something around that. But that 7.0 earthquake is in such a, it's in such a residential area, and such an area with so many different important kind of buildings and manufacturing places, the whole thing, and brick buildings. Apparently Hayward has whole sections of it, of older buildings. They would just turn to dust. That's about a minute-long earthquake. So think about that. It's crazy how it goes up exponentially. Whereas if you get up to a 9.0 with what we're expecting on the upper West Coast, that is a 5-minute earthquake. It's crazy to think about. And let's see here. Thank you, by the way, a couple shout outs. Catherine Willie, thank you. I appreciate you joining as a member. Places you can't go. Frank Wells, J Treactions, thank you. And then JS, I think I missed you last night, or maybe I did get to you. Thank you for the super. Thank you, Old Combat Vet. Anyone remember the hundreds of thousands of four-body ballistic caskets Mr. Barack's FEMNA stashed around the country? They are still there and waiting. Old Combat Vet, there was one that, Bones. Do you remember when Bones drove by and I think they were moved, right? Wasn't that it? Like Bones drove by that actual location that the viral video was of all of the temporary caskets was. And I think he said that they were moved or that they had moved them somewhere. Well, I have no doubt, and they do say they have an official narrative for those caskets. They essentially say they're for emergency reasons. If there's some horrible event, if there's an event like what happened, Boxing Day, tsunami, there's 250,000 people perished. They have to basically put people in those super quick. And one thing you also notice about those caskets, they are not meant for one person. They're meant for multiple. It's creepy when you think about that. It makes you think back to 2019, back when that whole event happened, and they said that there were they just dug into the ground. They said outside of New York even, I think they said that they dug and put people in, huge group coffins. And then Carlton Sutton, John 3:16, don't forget the basic. God loves the world, so reciprocate with a sincere heart. Carlton Sutton, thank you so much for your support, and thank you for the super. And then Old Combat Vet, when everything a gov does is harmful to its nation and its citizens, who does that government serve? Well, I think you probably have the answer to that. And then thank you over on DLive. Thank you, everybody that popped in. Sheila W., Kimbria, Laura Griffith, MC Dirty Work, and Agorka Kadovic. Thank you so much for following. And over everybody on X, thank you. I appreciate all of you guys popping in. All right, and then Dex, let's talk about the North Korean missiles, ICBMs, air defenses destroyed in a Russian blast.
Yeah, so we're getting more insight into this this massive explosion that happened in Russia. We talked about it last night. That was reported it was drones and no longer being reported as the potential missile that everybody thinks is going to start the escalation with Russia and NATO. But get this, they're now claiming that more than 100 drones were used, and they're claiming that the location they hit obviously took out a significant stock of missiles and ballistic missiles, as well as S-300s. More importantly, these missiles were the ones from North Korea. So if that's true. Now, mind you, the fact that we've said these drones don't really pack a huge punch, but maybe since they sent 100 in or over 100 in, that's what it did. And then, of course, when you're taking out other explosive devices, that's probably why we saw this massive mushroom-style fireball explosion there that was so large it registered as, a small earthquake on the Richter scales in that area. So we reported on that last night as well. So, this was a big hit. And if it's true, if what they're reporting is true, and they actually took out those S-300s, missiles, taking out a significant number of the North Korean missiles that have been shipped over. Again, all this is coming in from Telegram channels, so you got to take it with a big grain of salt. But nonetheless, it sort of it makes sense now when you wonder, how did that big explosion happen? What was it all about? Because we originally, when it first came out, the speculation was, oh my gosh, they finally used one of the big Western missiles and went deep into Russia. So that's the current story. We'll continue to follow it if anything new or significant comes out of it. But this is significant if the hit is really what they're saying, because that would be a pretty big, blow to Putin. And again, you'll see a response.
And they still could have. They still could have used already. It was right before this happened. They put out stories and kind of leaks and rumors that they may have already gotten some sort of approval from the people that mattered, or at least from half of the people that mattered. What was it, like European leaders or something said that they were okay with it, but they needed to check with the U.S. I think it was something along those lines. But you'll have to go back to our show. We went through the official story over it, and we questioned what they were saying there and what happened. So that's 2 nights ago. Go over the show 2 nights ago if you want to see all of that. And then U.S. sanctions facilitators of payments between Russia and North Korea. The U.S. State and Treasury Departments announced new sanctions Thursday on 5 groups and one person said to be involved in illicit payment mechanisms between Russia and North Korea. Before I go any further, you know how we were talking about how they're talking about possible, influencers and different things that might be tied back to the big bad red bear. And I was thinking, what if there was a new kind of version of the Red Scare and they're like, oh, he's a spy or he's this or he's that. Well, once they get involved into like banks and payment things, then if they accuse somebody, they can then cut people's money off. They can do this, then that. So I thought of this story when I was, over the last week of how they were doing this stuff. Because just hypothetically, what if they accused anybody and anybody or enemy of the state or somebody who knew too much or something? They could say, oh, he's a spy from Russia. And then all of a sudden they cut off all of their financial stuff, or they do this or that. It says in a statement issued by the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, the department said that the action holds accountable 5 entities and 1 individual based in Russia and the Russia-occupied Georgian region south of Ossetia that have assisted sanctions evasions by Russia and the People's Republic of Korea, the DPRK. It says, quoting, with mounting losses on the battlefield and, of course, deepening international isolation, the statement reads, Russia has become increasingly dependent on the DPRK for weapons procurement and economic cooperation. Today's sanctions demonstrate the Russian President Vladimir Putin's regime's use of illicit financial schemes to enable the DPRK to access the international banking system in violation of targeted financial sanctions. So, again, I don't doubt that this was going on as well, because Russia is getting, containers full of stuff through North Korea, and those containers are being tracked also from China, going to North Korean ports and then going down to Russia. Again, if that all is true. DPRK has had these kind of schemes going for a very long time because they are one of the most sanctioned places in the world. So are they trying to cut out any of the kind of ways that they're getting around all of this stuff? This is, they're saying that they're trying to find all of the ways that they're bringing in illegal money and getting around it. Dex, go ahead.
I mean, really, are they going to do they really think this is going to matter? I mean, every time we talk about sanctions, nothing changes. All they do is just find another way to shuffle the money. It's not impossible for them to figure it out. If they have to, they'll just put it on a train and run it from North Korea into Russia. Look, they froze U.S. controlled assets of 5 banks, 1 in Georgia, 4 in Russia. Okay, it's only the U.S. controlled assets. It's nothing else. And then they went after Dmitry Nukulin, the vice president of the TSMR bank, for establishing a secret banking relationship. Okay, but so they sanctioned him, but that doesn't mean, it just means he can't do anything with the West. But what does that really mean? Like, we've seen these sanctions over and over and over again. It doesn't mean a hill of beans. I mean, it was one thing when, you prevented, Iran from becoming flush with cash because they couldn't trade things, and you actually upheld that and prevented them from having all this excess money. There you saw a potential, change. But everything that we've seen since this conflict has started 2 years ago around sanctions, it's like a joke. If anything, it just hurts the U.S. dollar because everybody just moves on. They go, okay, we'll work with, between rubles and won and crypto or whatever we've got to, because we don't need the U.S. And that's what happens. And the dollar just goes down and down and down in power or value. Yeah.
And the sanctions, since the beginning, they've always found ways to skirt around them. Ray the Way, your comment just reminded me of another thing that I was digging deep on Adam McKay from Don't Look Up. I just saw another thing that popped in. But I'll read your comment real quick. Mr. Robot, Marf, you watched Mr. Robot, you would remember the episode when Xi's country created a 2001 type attack against the U.S. by wirelessly overloading the servers and batteries, causing infrastructures to explode. I'm just saying. So, yes, I do. And by the way, Mr. Robot, I forget what the company was called. Maybe somebody knows it in the chat. well, I think it was E Corporation or whatever, for evil, right? Was that, or am I mixing up? Either way, the corporation that was in it, I do know this, the company that was in Mr. Robot, there was a Easter egg in Leave the World Behind. The same guy who did Mr. Robot did Leave the World Behind. And Leave the World Behind, that whole thing was just one, secret message after another, telling you you don't even have to wear a hat for that one. That one was just straight up. There was on her tablet, Julia Roberts' tablet in the beginning, it shows a thing, basically an email or something from that corporation. So it basically says she effing hates people, that she basically works with those kind of people, that she was with these kind of evil corporation thing. So just a little backstory on that. Well, as far as Mr. Robot, it's like there are a lot of weird things with that show that really tie back, that make you think there's some serious messaging right underneath the surface. Now, back in the day, they would put secret codes and paintings and different things, and this was a real thing. They would put things that basically 99% of people wouldn't see, but if you knew the knowledge, then you would be able to tell what they were saying. There was a lot of stuff like this throughout history. If you go into the Adam McKay stuff, Adam McKay just did another true-to-life documentary about space and about NASA and all sorts of things. But Adam McKay, there is way more to this. I told you guys about Adam McKay making Don't Look Up, and he normally makes these true-to-life movies like The Big Short, these kind of, covering real-life stories or whatever. In Don't Look Up, he, of course, put, this is based on a true story, ... that hasn't happened yet, ... Well, there's more stuff of why he would actually be connected with all of that stuff, with asteroid protection and end-of-the-world type of stuff. And I'm working on that now. I will, of course, I'll be showing you guys that in the next 3 weeks or so. So stay tuned if you want to hear about all of that. There's also weird connections between him and other people in Hollywood. If you're watching all of this Diddy stuff, come out, there is just so much insanity. The truth is literally stranger than fiction in so many ways. Everything we think is just a crazy movie is actually real life. In fact, sometimes the movies are dull compared to what is happening right now. Right now, the Diddy thing, there's connections going back to T-Man, our former president, going back to 2018 videos of interrogations. Like, there's so much crazy stuff coming out right now. It's just insanity. So yeah, that totally reminded me of that. Thank you so much, Ray the Way, and thank you for continuing to watch and continuing to stop by. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace. This is our recommendation. If you have a regular medication, if you're worried about if something goes wrong tomorrow, if the lights go off, if there's no access to hospitals, if there's no access to pharmacies, a huge hack knocks out like in Mr. Robot. If any of that kind of thing happens, and it's not too crazy to see since we've already had things like this happen. We, of course, had that update just a couple months ago that knocked down stuff everywhere. People were in an airport for a week because of that huge update, they said. That wasn't even a hack from their admission. If something like that happens, or like Mr. Schloss says, or Klaus says, that a huge hack is very, very probable in the next year, then you definitely want to have a backup of some of this stuff. Jace is a service. It's a telehealth service. You can actually do a telehealth appointment from your computer or phone, from home, from the comfort of your couch, talk to a board-certified doctor. Not only can you get something like a Jace case, which is basically a all-in-one container that has all of the most common antibiotics, which are going to be incredibly hard to find if we go to war with China. They make 97% of the ingredients and 93% of all of them. But you'll also have that there. You can also have a 12-month supply of your regular medications through Jace Daily. That means you'll have exactly a year of extra medication that you can rotate into your current supply of your current prescription, and then the lights go off tomorrow, from that day, you will have a year of extra. So it's a very, very cool service, and it is something that preppers most likely already know about. It's just about, when are you going to do it, or when and if you can. Depends, because they don't have all medications, I believe, but definitely go check if they have yours. Or if you're a caregiver for somebody, maybe they don't want to prep, but you want to prep for them. You can help them out by doing that, or helping them try to get that. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jase, Jase, to learn more. You have to go check for every state's laws and different things there, but most places you can do this. So go to code MARF to get the savings and to help our channel out at the same time. And of course, top Russian lawmaker warns West of nuclear war over Ukraine. So, and I do believe that this is the same gentleman who we were just talking about earlier, that lawmaker Yaroslav Volodin. Dex, do you want to give your opinion on this? We didn't get you in on that last video.
Well, yeah, this kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that there was that massive explosion and potentially taking out a significant number of their missiles and defense systems, strategic defense systems. Those are all, that is all intertwined in this notion that they have said if a missile from the West strikes deep in Russia, in other words, if NATO gives the clearance, or more so the UK and the US gives the clearance, which they've been saying they're going to do at some point, to take maybe the Storm Shadow, which is the one everybody's talking about first, and launching it deep into Russia. When that happens, Russia has said that they will consider that a declaration of war against NATO immediately. This is also on the table, this notion of using nuclear. And I think it is the sense that they are telling us and telling the West, hey, we're getting closer and closer to potentially using nuclears, whether it's in UKR or even in the rest of Europe, or maybe even in the UK or in the US for that matter, depending on how far they're willing to take it. That's going to be a game changer. I think, in my opinion, you'll probably just see something in UKR. At first, and we'll have to see where it escalates from there. But if that first strike is a military base or a location with a lot of Western gear that's feeding into UKR in Poland or somewhere like that, that would not be surprising either, in my opinion. But we keep getting this message from Russia, and I know everyone just, even in the media, they've been saying it. They just keep crossing the red lines and they're not doing anything. Well, eventually, and I've said this time and time again, because eventually they're going to say enough is enough. You can't keep doing this to them and expect them not to respond.
And I think that it's a calculated response that they'll do. And usually when you use those words, it's like, we have to make sure it's kind of in kind with whatever the attack was. I think that this is all adding up to they're trying to get prepared to go to war with the largest and most powerful military in the world. You don't just do that without thinking. You're talking about Vladimir Putin, somebody who is a very strategic guy who was ex-KGB. So I think that they're making plans. Same with Xi Jinping. All of these countries have talked to each other. They said, well, hey, we really want to take the Americans out. We want to take the Western nations out there. They've been stepping on us for this long. From their point of view, they're saying, they've been tracking, tracing us, monitoring us, this and that. We're tired of it. We want to run stuff like we want to run. We don't want to have to put up with our overlords. Well, then somebody else at the table probably said, well, what do we do? The whole planet runs on their money. Well, we need to do everything step by step to essentially take their money out of the picture. China's been hoarding. Russia, of course, they're separating. They're doing BRICS. The BRICS thing, they're going to start a new currency to essentially work past the U.S. dollar. And if the U.S. dollar is the petrodollar, well, they would work with all the oil countries and try to make the oil countries really say, poo-poo the U.S. And what do you see happening? Saudi Arabia wasn't answering our calls while rolling out the red carpet for Xi Jinping. Something's obviously wrong. And then back in 2020, all of that stuff that happened, which most of us believe something very, very strange happened, really seems like, certain people have kind of turned a blind eye to certain countries and certain things. At the same time, you see all of these actions and representatives saying, oh, China's doing this and China's doing that. And you see the sanctions and them, oh, we need to remove TikTok and remove DJI and all of this stuff. But I don't think any of it does anything compared to what is about to happen. There are people, I believe, on the inside. I know there is. I mean, in every country there's spies. But this is about to get absolutely turned upside down. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat below. By the way, thank you, Unknown Sender, Van Bomber James Damron. Thank you, Exfil Imminent. Thank you, Michigan Lifestyle, for popping in. Thank you so much, Darren. Thank you, Daxel. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Let's see here. Choosey Heretics. Thank you. We've got Beth, Dennis Quarter. We've got Prepperines. Love it. We've got For William Texas says, what's up? Axe and Nacho, James Damron over on X, Sean C. Thank you for all of the other people that are watching over on X, like Prepperines and James. Sinista New Zealand, thank you. Hello from New Zealand. We've got Camp Krusty, Maine, Gunslinger, thank you. We've got Kuromiko. We have WIS Jen, Kathy Piina. Moscow got hit. Yes, well, so did it get hit again? Because we know that it did get hit before. And let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, so there's all sorts of stuff happening. They say in the past 24 hours. So we'll end up covering a lot of the stuff that's either confirmed, or we'll look at what Russia's saying about it officially, not just from telegrams. And I bet you on X over the next 24 hours, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out. Not to mention, again, there's a lot of stuff happening with Israel right now. So we'll be following all of that. So make sure to tune in. If you did not watch the short video that you should be sharing out with your friends and family that talks about the of course, the attempt on our former prez, make sure to go over to that other video. We just did it over on Marfoogle News. It's short. It's under 15 minutes. You can share that with friends and family. That, of course, is available at our website, marfooglenews.com. And you can find, of course, the full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. So make sure to go do so. Thank you, 2024, Dean G, Deborah L, anybody that ended up supporting PayPal. Thank you guys this year. I appreciate all of you. Paula, Tiffany, Michelle, Joanna, Amber, Jeffrey, Karen D, and Alita. Thank you guys. And then, Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. What is it? It's a shoutro. Drop an M in the chat for the wonderful mods. Make sure to go find them over at marfooglenews.com/friends. They're all not falling out their hair. Yep, yep. There is no good war declared. Yep, yep. They're all not falling out their hair. Yep, yep. There is no good war declared. Yep, yep. They're all not falling out their hair. Yep, yep. There is no good war declared. Right.